So holding Donald Trump and his gang accountable is vital. But it is crucial that the Biden administration move forward at the same time on our progressive agenda. It would be a horrible miscarriage of justice if impeaching Donald Trump and bringing him to trial disrupts the work to repair all of the damage he did to the economy and to working people. That damage is bigger than just Trump, of course. We have generations of exploitation to undo. So we need to get started while the pain is so apparent and the political tide and will is running our way. Here are 3 things for progressives to fight for right now as Biden takes office. Number 1, let's expand the stimulus, and lock it in for a minimum of 2 years. Number 2, let's erase student loan debt. Just totally erase it. And number 3, let's extend the moratorium on evictions at least through all of 2021, combined with a plan for the government to take over past rents and mortgage payments. It won't work if you just do one. These 3 things are key to helping working people through this crisis. And as progressives, one thing that we can do is keep repeating that this is a crisis, the deepest economic downturn since the Depression, a downturn that has fallen far harder on low-wage workers and people of color and immigrants, a downturn that will make the economic and racial inequities of our country far worse unless we intervene now and start making things better. These 3 measures will not be nearly enough, of course, but they are an immediate start. We have wind at our backs with all 3 of these things already. And they are measures that are already finding support behind our progressive ranks and, frankly, even some of our neoliberal ranks, which means we can get them done quickly and well. And speed is important right now because people are struggling to stay afloat. We know this. With all the horrors in our face right now, it is easy to lose sight. And I think the corporate media have lost sight in some ways of how desperate life has become for so many of us, for so many Americans, for so many immigrants. People are out of work, months behind on rent, dependent on charity to feed their families. There are food lines around the country that go miles long. Every day that this goes on inflicts long-term damage on the future. The 3 steps of stimulus, debt relief, and rent relief will ease the immediate crisis for many people and create a space for the larger changes this country might have, like passing Medicare for all. Now, as progressives, we should not shrink from the price tag, of course. This will cost a lot of money. The country will run up a debt. But this is the time to spend, right? As expensive as this will be in dollars, we as progressives must make the case that the cost of not doing this will be far, far, far higher. The physical cost and the actual cost on people, the money cost and the actual cost on humans. You don't have to be Stephanie Calton and the MMT theorists to see that it is a pretty good idea to borrow money now and at interest rates right now near 0 to prevent a dystopian America of underpaid and unemployed workers, unbridgeable racial schisms, and rich people living behind gates and walls while the majority of the country goes hungry. If it helps, think of the American people as, a company, maybe a bank or an airline. America bailed out airlines and banks and automakers and others. This is the bailout for American working people who, by the way, all those companies, right, they depend on, huh? We really are at a fork in the road, and we cannot let the necessary job of holding Trump to account also distract us from the work ahead. These 3 steps can be enacted in the first few weeks of the Biden administration. Stimulus talks are already underway. We are told Senator Chuck Schumer is already telling the Biden people to raise their sights on how much should be spent. That's Chuck Banker Schumer, which must mean that his friends on Wall Street and the big banks accept that this is needed. It's a big deal. The next stimulus bill must make clear that it will take us several years to climb out of this pit. That means supplemental unemployment insurance, at least until unemployment is back near where it was before the pandemic, which may well be into 2022 or 2023, or worse if we don't do anything. It also means we have to think bigger than just whether the next stimulus check is $600 or $2,000. What a freaking insult that is to people. We need to commit to regular monthly stimulus checks into 2022 at least. I am fine with the $75,000 and $95,000 caps, and I hope as the year goes on, more and more Americans get back to work and start to earn their way out of their stimulus checks. That is a good thing. But remember, there are millions of low-wage Americans who never make more than $75,000, and we need to be thinking about them. Then there is the student loan relief. This debt is a noose around the necks of millions of Americans, not just millennials, millions of Americans. Millions of Americans who didn't graduate because the debt was so high. So they didn't even get the degree, or they didn't get the jobs that came with the degree as they were promised. It has been holding their lives back even way before the pandemic. We know this. It ruins their credit and holds them back from investing in their futures, which, by the way, is America's future, right? So let's wipe that slate clean. The banks will surely take a haircut, as they say on Wall Street, but I am actually okay with some reimbursement from the government to the banks to cover part of the losses. And then let's have a major plan for dealing with both access to education and its costs, so we never sink back into a hole like this. Now, third is rent and mortgage relief. There are millions of lower income Americans who have not paid their rent in months. That also includes the middle class. That includes small business people who have lost their businesses or maybe because they can't pay for their store or factory space. Right now, this may be the most frightening part of the economic crash and the piece that must be dealt with urgently. People have lost their jobs. People have lost their health care that came with their jobs. People can no longer afford to pay their mortgages or their rent. First, because all that is protecting millions of Americans from evictions are the federal and local moratoriums, which must be continued. But that really only pushes the crisis up the chain to the landlords. Some landlords are really just small business people themselves who now are in danger of collapse. Others are mega real estate companies, like the ones I've done battle with in New York City. So I have to grit my teeth as I say this, but they can and should have a seat at the table as we sort this out. Hear me out. A real estate bailout has to start with tenants, not real estate giants. But we need a plan that cleans the slate of back rents and back debts and lets all of us, debtors, banks, realtors, tenants, start 2022 fresh. Now, hear me out for a second, because they have an interest in keeping the rental market going. If rental companies, if developers see that people cannot afford to move into apartments or move into new homes, that affects their bottom line. So if the corporate Democrats don't want to hear us tenants, us lowly tenants, then maybe they'll listen to their big donors in the real estate industry who also have a stake in this. Maybe there are weird, strange bedfellow allies in this, which of course leads to my bigger point. The pandemic will end sooner rather than later if Biden is able to slap the dysfunctional vaccine effort to attention and create mandatory mask enactment. Let's just pick September, okay, as the month that we can resume whatever normal will look like after this. The vaccine can tamp down the health crisis, but we need sustained stimulus, student debt relief, and rent relief to clear the economic rubble and get us all back to school and back to work and onward to rebuilding a country better than the one that's crumbled around us way before this pandemic. That is what is needed. Thanks for watching and listening to The Nomiki Show. But remember to click like and subscribe on YouTube, and please share on social media. If you're not already a patron, please join us for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show for early and special content. That investment makes a huge difference. We are not corporate media raking in the dough. It's really you guys that are keeping us going. So please consider being a patron. And to our current patrons, thank you so much. We are incredibly grateful to you. We also now have swag. So check us out on thenomikishow.com to get your mugs, your totes, and your stickers.